Clearly, I like to call the meeting to order. That was a pledge. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, thank you. Roll call, Carrie, speak to your here.
Mark is on vacation, otherwise, if they were.
Right, and he said he might call it, but.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna be on.
Okay. Next item, we have, minutes from 2/17 to approve. He also, Jerry sent out some notes from the March 7th. The date, yeah, which date it was, the town hall meeting, right? And so I think both of them have been sent out. We do not print them anymore, so I need quickly back to our chapter review. I need a motion to approve them. Thank you. A second. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
All right.
Aye on the 17th. Are you approving both or just one?
Both, right? The March 3rd, right? Was that the March 3rd town?
You mean the public hearing?
The public hearing.
Or just notes?
It was just notes, yeah. We don't need to do that yet.
Okay.
So it was
No.
February 17 and anyways, the chair also wrote notes for the March 3rd meeting, right? So anyway, thank you very much. I think we're done.
Yeah.
Public comments?
How do you guys usually do it? Do I come up here, sit
Sure,
here?
whatever comfortable for you.
I'll come over. So, hi, I'm Casey Barrett. I have two kids at Goodwin School. And I'm here tonight to talk about the budget for the Board of Education, in reference to that. And what's going on, with that budget. I'm really concerned that if we get this wrong, that it's really gonna cost our kids. So I'd like to start with some numbers. Last year, we tested our third graders, who are now fourth graders, and my daughter is one of them. And our literacy rate for the third graders are 55%. 55%.
Your what are?
The literacy rate
Literacy.
for our third graders who are now fourth graders. 46% are meeting math standards. 46%. Crazy number to me, really scary number. More than 1 in 4 scored at the very bottom in math. So what these numbers mean, according to the research from the Annie Casey Foundation, they estimate that a student who cannot read proficiently by the end of third grade is 4 times more likely to drop out of high school. A high school dropout costs taxpayers approximately $292,000 over a lifetime, lost tax revenue, increased social services, and higher incarceration rates. And we're not just talking about a child's report card and all these kids at Goodwin, though they really do matter, the 56 kids in the fourth grade at Goodwin. It's a fiscal liability for the town. So how does that impact Old Saybrook specifically? Well, if we don't help these kids now, it's going to go into fourth grade intervention, to middle school remediation, to high school dropout, and eventually town services. Those costs come from out of local property taxes. They affect our grand list. They shape what kind of community Old Saybrook becomes. What kind of community are we going to be with all of these third graders who can't read? And this doesn't magically, when they get into ninth grade, they don't just learn how to read. These kids, we're failing them. And yet our proposed response to this is to let a math tutor position quietly disappear through attrition. That's in the strategic plan, to let that math tutor position go. When 46% of this grade, and I'm just narrowing it down to this grade specifically at this point, but you can look at the numbers, and that's available on public ed, the CTEC website. So the answer was to get rid of that math tutor position through attrition. And I do want to be fair, and I know budgets are hard, but I can't see how we're at that 40%, 46% math proficiency rate and the literacy rate, and yet we're not like pouring money into this problem. And it's not just third grade. You guys can look into it. You know, like it's not just third grade. And how come we're not putting money into literacy coaches and math coaches? It's crazy to me that this isn't on the radar. And looking at neighboring districts, the third grade stats for the same year, Essex, 70% reading, 73% math. Madison, 72% reading, 76% math. East Lyme, 74% reading, 78% math, and Old Lyme, 80% reading and 83% math. How come they're doing so much better than us? And I know some of them have more money. I get that, but like, this is not a gap in student potential because our kids are smart in Saybrook. This is a gap in resource allocation. So I'm asking the Board of Finance to please reject the current Board of Education budget as presented. I'm asking the Board of Education to go back and rethink its priorities. Please don't cut teacher positions. Please fund math tutors, invest in literacy coaches, invest in a reading and math curriculum with a proven track record, because right now we're paying for one that just isn't working. It's not working. So please let's invest in what works. And I also want to know that a community petition on this issue has gathered over 130 signatures and it's still growing. So it's not just me. This concern is widely shared. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Did you want me to speak to that at all?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, you'd be speaking on the Board of Ed, and that's not.
Yeah. I didn't want to speak on the Board of Ed. I just wanted to clarify what it's not in terms of that it's not literacy rate. That doesn't mean that,
Yeah.
so just wanted to clarify that the definition of
And
what the
yeah.
50,
Yeah.
those percentages are SBAC, English language arts achievement results. It's not a literacy rate.
Anybody
We do
else?
have one person online that'd like to talk as well.
Okay.
Mike, are you there?
Yeah, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Yeah, just for the record, Michael Bender, live on Southview Terrace. I am the chairman of the planning commission, but I'm just here, as myself tonight here. As I stated at the other public hearing, I've got some serious concerns with the Board of Education budget and the plan that's implementing some of the same concerns I think that, Casey just, expressed here. I mean, I realize, the Board of Finance, isn't here to reject or make changes to the Board of Ed strategic plan, but the Board of Finance does have the authority to evaluate whether the budget request that's before you is justified, reasonable, and in the best interest of all the taxpayers. I think as Casey mentioned, compared to what we spend per student, compared to other nearby towns or districts with like similar student population sizes or demographics, we are falling behind. We have one of the highest per pupil costs, but we don't have the highest results in ELA, math, or science. It's worse when we look at the results for our high need students. We also have one of the highest teacher attrition rates, which is sort of an interesting thing that I just learned today here. The budget is not delivering results that justify the investment. It's cutting enrichment, it's cutting teaching positions, and I don't see how that's going to improve outcomes that are already, jeopardized here. And I just want to strongly encourage you to have continued conversations with the Board of Education before approving this budget. Ask them to revise it, demonstrate how their spending priorities will address the root causes of declining enrollment and underperformance compared to relative to comparable districts. If we wait on this, it means we're going to commit taxpayers to funding a strategy that's not going to work, and we're going to be back here next year with the same problems and another large increase. Like, ask them how the budget is going to close the achievement gaps. Ask them why this spending strategy is superior to other districts who are doing more with less. And ask them what metrics they're going to use to measure if the plan is working or not. We're trying to work with the Board of Education and the superintendent. As Casey mentioned, a bunch of parents signed a letter. There's a petition with over 130 signatures on it. Like, these are parents who are motivated and they want what's best for our kids. Schools are like the heart of our community. They're where our children learn and play and develop a lifelong affinity for our town. They are something we should all be proud of and proud to invest in. They are the reason that families choose or don't choose to live here. We talk a lot about the importance of a low mill rate, but we can see that families that are moving to other towns or sending their children elsewhere, that's not really enough to deliver what families need. I urge you to use, your authority and power here as the Board of Finance, ask hard questions, and demand better answers before asking taxpayers to commit us to this level of spending. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Anybody else?
That's everyone.
Okay, all right. I think we'll move on. Um, Yeah, I'm sorry, Jay, I appreciate your comments, but I think.
No, I just wanted to clarify definition,
Yeah,
not to speak on the Board of Ed's behalf at all, just to clarify definition.
shall we go on?
Yeah, I mean, it's public comment,
Sure.
and in theory, you know, there's nothing wrong with,
Go ahead, sir. Yeah.
if there was anything else you wanted to respond to, I suppose. I mean, I think that's,
No, absolutely, no, I
Yeah.
agree.
Well, I don't think it's, would be appropriate for me to speak on behalf of the superintendent or the Board of Ed by any stretch. But I do want to be careful when, there's language used, literacy versus a specific, literacy implies the whether you can read or not. And that's not what the measurements that were being referenced indicate. It's a specific, standard and how many students are at or above that standard. So, we're still in the middle of the grade, right now. We've got more learning to do. So, we'll see where we are, at the end of the year. If the boards would like, Board of Selectmen, Board of, Finance, certainly we can have, request the Board of Ed to provide more information if that's appropriate.
I'm sorry if I didn't use the right word. I should have said at or above reading level. My apologies. I'm not a teacher. Sorry.
Okay, just want to clarify because there may be people.
Reading
who are-
level. Yeah, they're not at, use the correct words, reading. They're not at reading level.
Master, level, yeah.
We'll have item 10 tonight, we will have this for the next few meetings. I asked for the budget review discussion to be put on the agenda over the next few meetings. And so tonight we will have the very first one. I think we can have at that point more of an open discussion on the finance members. And that'll be the appropriate time to have it.
so typically we like to have the Board of Finance advance a budget. So you have 2 more Tuesdays in March, and those could be special meetings. The 24th, 31st, and voting on April 7th would probably, or whenever that April is, would probably be pushing it in terms of getting this app properly advertised. Leanne can speak to the schedule a little bit better, but it's about 3 weeks out, I'd say, max, just so the chair is aware.
So the referendum is May 12th?
It is,
Yes.
but there are several things that have to happen before that.
Okay. We do not have any more scheduled meeting between now and April.
I know.
Right, so we will have to, I was not planning to do a motion tonight.
Yeah, no, I didn't think so.
Okay,
I'm not suggesting that.
fair, okay.
I'm just giving you
Understood.
a date to work back from.
So, yes, so we will either have to call a special meeting between now and April 7th or.
I would think.
Yeah, or push it to the April 7th, if be possible, right, but we'll get there when we get to
Yeah.
the 10. Okay. Ready to report?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You ready for me?
Absolutely, please, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So our executive summary as of February 28th, 2026 for fiscal year 26. So fiscal year to date, the town has received revenue of $53,214,624, or 100.7% of the total amount of $52,843,405 budgeted for fiscal year 26. Comparing our performance to last fiscal year, we are 1.3% behind still this time last year. Mini golf, nothing has changed in the last couple of months, so we don't need to discuss that. We'll move to the authorized investment section. So at the end of February, the town had 50 million in its bank accounts. And the last month's STIP rate has stayed steady, which was nice, at 3.80%. And today it is still at 3.72%. And as you all know now, Webster gives us the stick rate in arrears, and their rate last month was 3.8. So last month on February 13th, we had a bond mature and we reinvested into another short-term treasury note, 2.403 million. We reinvested at 3.428% interest rate with a maturing value of 2.5 million, which will mature on June 30, 2027. We will have revenue for fiscal year 27 of 109,472 from that bond, which will bring our total revenue for short-term bonds in fiscal year 27 to $318,977. You guys have any questions on that? All right. Then we'll move to the pension plan. We received a report from Morgan Stanley. Now, pension plan is up 8.48% fiscal year to date versus its benchmark of 12%. Over the 3-year horizon, the town plan has returned 11.30% versus its benchmark of 14.58%. The fire department pension plan is up 7.89% fiscal year to date and has returned 10.83% over the 3-year horizon versus its benchmark of 14.58%. And then all monies belonging to the town as of February 28, we had total cash balances of 50 million, total pension balances of 33.1 for total assets under management of 83.1 million. So we'll turn to page 2 of the treasurer's report. So the revenues broken out in a little more detail. So in February, the tax revenues were 2,327,991. Or 100.1% the amount budgeted for fiscal year 26. We traditionally assume a 99% tax collection, so we went above it. So we're doing really well with our tax collection. So it's really excellent. Any questions there? Just checking in. So in terms of local revenues, the town collected $358,060 locally, or $2,852,542 in local revenues, for the total of $53,214,624. So you'll see under the state revenue part, we received $166,491 from the state of Connecticut for the town aid road money. It was our second installment and our last installment. We received $86,000 more than we expected. We collected $132,674 in interest and dividend income. And we are now over our budgeted amount for fiscal year 26 in interest and income on our revenue. The building department has brought in this year over 65% over their budgeted amount so far this year. And so far, we have a $371,219 surplus as of the end of February. And that's all I have, guys. Yes, Jake.
Yeah, so the tax collector and the building, is that part of the whole Amtrak train project? Is that where that money's coming from? Compared to where we
There's been an increase
budgeted?
in the grand list, and a good portion of the increase came from the cranes across the river, right?
Right.
And that number will go down over the next 5 years as they depreciate, I assume, but yes, there
So
was,
with that coming in higher than what we budgeted for?
is what coming in, personal property?
No,
is.
well, no, is the Amtrak, is that part of why we're, already over what we had budgeted for? Is because in other words, did we budget
No.
for the money coming in
No,
for
no,
our grant?
that would, the Amtrak cranes that we're taxing will really affect the 27 budget.
Okay,
They were on the grand list for October 1.
okay, so they're not even in this.
No.
Interesting. Okay, good to know.
Or, yeah. That's mostly right, Leanne, personal property, I mean, some of it's probably in there, but I don't know what Bridget captured for this year.
That's correct. It's in fiscal year 27 that we saw the personal property jump. So it will be in the grand list, which will help to offset taxes. So it's in the personal property for next year. And
Yeah.
I do not believe, but I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think there's any building permits that we have collected on that Amtrak thing. I don't think that we collected anything there. So all next year is when we're going to see the results of the Amtrak affect our budget. And then it'll go down over the subsequent 5 years.
Thanks.
Well, I have,
Yes, department. So you check, so you said one of the bonds matured, and you guys reinvested to
Right.
mature in 2027.
Correct.
It's very short term, 1 year essentially.
yes, well, we traditionally try to stay within the year.
I see.
It'll mature on June 30 of 27.
Okay,
Yes.
so how many bonds right now are maturing at 27?
We right now have 3 bonds that will mature in 27, but we have 2 more coming up in 26, so they will probably go into 27.
Okay.
Although we may thinking of, who knows, we may think about going, the investment committee will discuss it. We will decide as we go forward.
My question basically is, we can almost anticipate how much money we'll be getting in 27 already.
Oh,
In
yeah,
terms of.
We're building in revenue right now.
Right,
Fiscal
right.
27, right, that's correct, so it's locked in towards the amount that we have budgeted.
Yes.
I have a question. Does the investment committee, target, project, forecast rates? I'm just wondering, in terms of the strategy.
we try to, but we don't hold a crystal ball with rates.
No, but I'm just saying, if we were to see, a weaker economy and I think, in my opinion, rates potentially lower than higher. I think there's a higher probability of lower rates. I mean, do you take these into account, or is it more kind of laddering?
It-
We are lagging.
Our ladder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Leanne.
Say something. So we have a 2-part strategy. The first is, basically all of the town's money is overnight. So it's more of a diversification strategy than, one to earn the highest amount of interest that we can. And so to that extent, we then take, it's now about $11 million. It roughly equates our rainy day fund, and we've taken those monies and we move them out in a ladder up to 18 months, like usually 6 months to 18 months. So that's why we get some money in fiscal 27, some money in fiscal 26, and then we'll start building fiscal 28. Therefore, we have if interest rates rise or fall, we have 2 portions of the portfolio that can help us out. Either if it's locked in and rates fall, we'll do well, or if rates rise, then we obviously have our overnight money. So it's really risk mitigation and diversification is our primary purposes for that investment strategy.
Thank you.
A few questions. There's an item here that's like realized gains, short-term gains, where I guess we didn't budget anything. We had a large number last year, over 300,000. That's 126,000 this year. Is that, what is that?
It's the realized gains and the short-term gains is just part of our investment money. So that's why we didn't, budget anything. It's all really part of that 750 that is up on the interest money. It's all
The
part of that.
the short-term gains are all from the investment portfolio and treasuries and agencies that we have. It's just the way that we have to account for them. But when we're looking at the budget, we budgeted $750,000 all in, which should include interest, short-term gains, all of that. We did not break it out into what we expect for each category. We probably could if we wanted to, but we expected all in 750,000 for a budget.
Okay, so if I wanted to compare the 750 to something, I should add the 812,000 in interest. I should add to that the next line, another 83,000 in interest and dividends. And then I should add to that another 126,000
Right.
in realized gains and short-term gains. So that's like, if I add all that up, that's a little over $1 million compared to the 750. So all in, we're like 250,000 ahead of budget just through February,
Right.
right? And
Yes.
so we got another 4 months to go.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, correct. You are.
Okay, okay, that's good. And I guess the only other question I have is on building permits. I don't know if there's one or two things that are driving it, but it's way, way, way ahead of.
So far ahead.
That's been the case for probably 10 years now.
Oh, okay.
Just because of what's going on in this town for the last 10, 12 years, the investment, people buying houses, tearing them down, people doing work to their houses, prices, well, the price of work going up, of course, and then we get a percentage of that. And Tom actually, I want to say he did raise fees like 5 or 6 years ago too.
Okay.
Or maybe it was Don Lucas he did. So we, with these numbers, with these revenue numbers, we try to be conservative in these numbers because like the 750,000 in revenue, yeah, we have $1 million, but as Steve mentioned, if interest rates go down $1, we might end up having 450 and we budgeted 750. And, you know, so we've used this 200 number. Tom has exceeded it. I'm happy to have the extra revenue at the end of the year. The first thing we do, like Barbara mentioned, the surplus right now is, let's say, 300,000. We keep our rainy day fund at 17%. And the first thing we do with surplus is keep our rainy day fund at 17% on next year's budget. So that'll probably be 300,000 to 400,000 next year. So the first 300,000 to 400,000 in surplus will go towards maintaining the rainy day fund. Anything else is true surplus, but we've tried to be conservative with our numbers. We really jacked up the interest income a lot. I think Leanne might have a handout or at least over the last 5 years, went from 150 to 400 to 500 to 650, and now we're at 750. And if you spend down some of your capital non-recurring and you spend all your ARPA money and you spend some additional funding, you're going to make less money on your money and you might have lower interest rates. So yes, there's a surplus. That's good. If anything, if over the next 3, 4, 5 years, I'm thinking we might want to back that 750 number down. If anything, that's a direction I think it should go eventually, but I guess I'm trying to predict interest rates at that point, which we shouldn't be doing. So anyway, and I probably said too much there.
No, that's all really helpful. There is a tempering of the interest rate reductions that are
there is
right now.
Absolutely. But we do have a president for another 3 years that's hell bent on lower interest rates and changing the Federal Reserve composition. So, I mean, we know we're losing Powell as chair. He might stay on still, the committee, but,
just add to my method to my madness. We just happen to have an investment committee meeting today at my firm, and we manage, our short-term cash, and we made a conscious decision today to extend our duration. So that was my
Okay.
kind of the premise is I think
Would
could
you
be
intend
locking.
to-
Well, that's to be determined. We're gonna meet again, next week and determine exactly how far we push it out. And we have two outside firms that we have meetings. One of them's Capital Group but anyway, we just sense a little weakness in the economy and we sense certainly, Fed policy along with it. And there's a lot, greater risk of interest rates declining than increasing. And I'll say the rates that are posted today are pretty competitive. I mean, these are pretty good rates, that you've
And
secured.
they've stayed.
Very-
They've stayed steady over 30 days.
As Leanne mentioned, though, we don't extend our duration because this is our cash.
Right.
And if we need that cash, we need to be able to access it. So we don't go out.
No, I know you
Yeah,
can't go beyond 18 months,
Yeah,
but, whatever the average maturity is now, inside of that,
Yeah.
could the decision be made to maybe push that out a month? Now, you reinvested for June 30, so that was a conscious decision to go out, whatever, 15 months.
Right.
And that's, to me, that's a conscious decision to,
Fiscal year 27, that was the conscious decision.
that was good,
It's
well, good.
before you were on the board 2 years ago, 3 years ago, sometimes we were playing around with, 8 months, 9 months, we were going higher rates, doing it shorter term. But now we go a little longer. Just, you gotta see what's there.
Excellent,
We're making very smart moves.
like it, I like it.
I do too.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.
I've given a few questions I'd like to say.
Sorry, sort of wrapped it off, because it turns out there were 3 line items.
Okay. Oh, all right.
Wrap all into one, so.
I kept it in. We done?
No, yeah, that was it, and then the building permit fees.
Okay, very good.
So, no, I'm good. Thank you.
Finance Director's report. Leanne?
Hey, good evening, everyone. So we talked a little bit about what I was going to talk about at first, which is the projected surplus for fiscal year 26. Right now, I see that we are likely going to have a surplus of over $1 million, somewhere between maybe $1 and $1.5 million. The driving forces of that surplus are going to be interest income. We have 4 months left, earning $100,000 a month. That's $400,000 there. Taxes that I estimate based on historic collections from the last 4 months are about $400,000. And of course, we have still remaining town clerk revenues and building permits for the last 4 months. So those will be the driving forces. And we are going to have a surplus, a revenue surplus anyway, for this fiscal year. Some of the items that we, just to kind of extend the points that Carl was making, we do look at our balances when we project how much money we're going to earn. And we also look at what the Fed Fund futures rate is going to be for next year, the average at this point in time. And it's projected the average for fiscal year 27 will be 3%. So, when we get around to budgeting, the interest income for next year, it probably will be somewhere around $750,000. So we have average balances of about 25 million. That's taking into consideration the fact that we're going to be bonding, we're going to be using our cash balances, we're going to be out of ARPA. Those balances are going to go down. And we expect that interest rates will go down too. So I expect when the time comes that we will recommend that to be kept fairly level. So that's surplus. Moving on to the finance director's report specifically. ARPA on the first page, we only have $92,000 left to spend on that. Little by little, we're whittling it down. Nothing really new there. On page 2, at the February 17th Board of Finance meeting, it was approved the 2 harbor management requests for grants for the Port Authority for the study and for the other one for 785,000, both reimbursable grants were approved and they have yet to go to town meeting. On page 3, we have the cash flow report for the town for the month of February. So the general fund was down 600,000. Again, we continued to collect taxes in the month of February. We had 2.8 million coming in revenues, and we had expenses against that of 3.2 million. So we had net outflow of 589,000 in the general fund. In terms of the capital funds, they were down 547,000. We actually paid for the crosswalks, so there was activity in that area from our capital funds. Reserves were flat, nothing major going on there. And then in our non-major funds, we were up 917,000. That the majority of that was due to the fact that we had a $1 million infusion into our pension plan. Our assets are held off balance at Morgan Stanley, and we needed to bring some cash in order to make the pension payments for the balance of the year. So that was just a transfer of cash. In the capital section below, there was actually no activity for the month of February, as well as for no activity in our capital expenditures. One thing I did want to point out in the balances for the last page of the report. So the Board of Finance has a policy that if any line item goes over, that I am to report that to the Board of Finance. And if you want the department head to come in, you can. So I want to report that the snow budget is now $22,000 over. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody in that room. Our budget is $45,000. And this number, by the way, is not in your sheet that you're looking at. I looked it up online for actual up to the minute number because you're going to want to know what's coming as opposed to what has been. So far, that looks like we've spent $68,000 on the snow, and that'll be down $22,000. Now, that's just a line item within the public work budget. When we look at the budget as a whole in terms of, when it needs action of going over 25,000 or going to town meeting or any kind of action by the Board of Finance, it's when the budget in its entirety goes over 25,000. So there's other areas, the admin, the highway, streets, all of those things will be added together and looked at as well. And there's at this point, no danger of the entire public works budget going over budget. And
So part of that was very expensive to remove snow from Main Street because you're hiring private contractors to assist with your public works crew. And we did that twice, and you have to do it because it's a danger to have those huge snow mounds on Main Street. So that I think there was an $8,000 bill from one of the contractors. And we used Downey and B&O Construction in the last storm. So that's part of the reason why it's going way over budget. He obviously snow and ice, salt, get by more salt and sand. And so I think it's pretty understandable. There's a lot of towns, you're hearing that all over the state that are over. I think Bill will be able to manage, as Leanne said, the budget, no problem, so that the DPW budget itself will not exceed its given amount to spend by more than 45,000.
Well, amazed it's not higher overage, I'll tell you, and I've said it before.
Yeah.
To Bill, it's amazing when I cross going to work and get into Essex, the difference in terms of the clearing. Saybrook does a phenomenal job. Essex, oh my God, much different story.
Norm's not watching, so that's
I don't know anyway.
yeah, no, they did a very good job, and it was very difficult, and then it was all gone 2 weeks later. 2 weeks. it was gone.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I was like,
Where'd they put?
amazing, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
They did a great job.
a lot of curbs to replace.
Oh.
Yes.
That's,
Oh.
should we change the rainy day fund to the snowy day fund? Maybe that should be.
Was there anything else in the end?
That's all I have, Mr.
Oh.
Chairman.
Any questions for me?
This is sort of for the budget this year, but it's also thinking ahead to next year and what's in there. How should we think about, fuel expense for the town? You know, given I mean, maybe it'll be a temporary, maybe it won't be temporary increase in diesel and gasoline prices.
So fuel expense is not a major expense for the town. We spend about 100 for the entire, budget. We spend like about $125,000. That includes the police department, DPW, and we have a fail safe within the police department, which if they go over $40,000, which we budgeted, we will take the money from outside services at the end of the fiscal year, assuming that we have money from outside services, which we will. And then we'll offset the budget so that is exactly $40,000. So given that, it's, it makes it highly unlikely that, we're going to have any major material deviations, and the price of fuel, even though, I don't know what's going to happen, but it has fluctuated over the past 5 years, certainly. And our budget has always been able to withstand that because it's a smaller amount, and B, it's several departments that comprise that 125,000. So I think that we're okay is the bottom line in terms of fuel expense going forward. We don't have any. Sometimes the first selectman will buy fuel contracts. We don't have any at the moment, correct? I know, I don't think so. But, if something happens and fuel rates go down, we certainly lock it in at that point in time. So that's another fail safe that we are always monitoring as well.
Okay, so basically we buy at market or.
We are buying at market. There might be one contract out there. I'd have to check. But, if you go back 2 years, gas was probably kind of where it is now, almost, it just seemed it's in our consciousness right now because it's gone straight up in the last 3 weeks. And, there's no point in hoping for anything because hope doesn't get you anywhere. But, it's really not a huge part of the budget. It's almost shockingly low. Diesel, we spend like 18, what was it? What was the number on diesel, Leanne? 20 grand or something? And all the trucks,
Yeah.
it's more.
Yep. Like 30 grand.
30 grand. And all our trucks are diesel. It's just not a big number. So if prices go up 20% or 30% even, it's just not a number that's moving the needle that much.
How about the heating for the building?
Gas. So,
Well, we had the electricity that we did raise across the board for electricity. And pardon me?
We're locked into electricity on a contract.
Right.
And gas is market value, but actually in next year's budget, we right-sized a few of the numbers for the town hall electric. And gas, I think, they just went up like 4,000 or 5,000. We right-sized all, the library, the town hall, but nothing major.
I think it would probably affect the school bus, which is in the Board of Education. That's really
No
where
doubt.
we're gonna be.
Yes,
And we're contracting, so we're not buying that gas, but we're paying we got a contract with a bus company that's buying the gas.
right.
So the trickle down.
Is that an open piece of their contract every year? Or is that set throughout the 5 years, do you know?
I don't know when that contract, how often that gets relooked.
I think Pam mentioned 5 years at one point when she was in here.
Yeah, because we didn't negotiate that this year.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Thanks, Leanne. Okay. Next two items are both, yours, Carl. I guess we can start with the town hall.
Yeah.
Masonry.
And thank you, Mr. Chair, for putting these on, I know you hate when I say that, but I'm sorry. For allowing these to go on the agenda. So we've had, so the building is 2005 complete, so we're in year 21 of this building. The roof is not bad. We've looked at it. It could use replacement, but we had Macri Roofing come look at it. They're a DAS certified contractor, so if we wanted them to do the work, we don't have to go out to bid. We can use them. Mike Macri lives in town. They have a shop up in Meriden. If you look at the gables on either side of town hall, they're moss infested. And he really feels that if we fix the gables, we'll get a few more years of life out of the roof, because he feels the moisture is really coming in through the gables and getting under the roof. And then we're getting some leakage, mostly towards the accounting side of town hall, which is that corner up there. And so I thought we'd attack this two different ways here with two different funding sources. We don't put a lot of money away, but we do put some money away for roof repairs. We paid for the fire department to put on their new roof with the roofing fund, and that expended most of it a few years ago. So we have 25,000 in it now, and we will be budgeting another 25 in once the budget passes for July 1. And so I thought we'd do that 50 and take 50 from capital non-recurring, and that pays for getting the gables repaired, which can only be done in good weather. So they're not even ready to do it right now. It's probably a month out to even do this work, but you have an item in front of you. You can see it's brick removal and replacement, not all of it, but a lot of it, installing copper, the slope concrete copings, and brick repair and maintenance to the north chimney. So that is what's before you. It's just persistent leaks. They've come, they fixed it, they come, they patch it, they come, they patch it. And he finally said to me, your roof can last a few more years, but if you do this gable work, I think you'll get that roof, you'll get it to last. So that is what's before you. I don't know.
Good.
Yeah, simple as that. Very simple. Not terribly expensive, especially if we can get a little bit more life out of the roof. And we have 50,000 set aside for it.
Carl, did he give you a quote on like what, just to try to get a relative perspective, what it would be to replace the roof?
The roof is about 140,000 for town hall roof.
And how much life does he think we have?
I'm sorry?
How much life does he think we have left on it?
Probably if we can get he said it depends. He said, well, we'll see how it does, but up to 5 years or so, which is great. They patched it enough that if he can seal it, he just feels like it'll be okay.
That seems very low for a building this size, $100,000.
Leanne, I sent you the roof repair, the actual asphalt repair. I think it was about 100. Is it about 150,000?
I
Do you
think that
remember?
sounds right. I can look it up in my email if you want, but that sounds about right.
Yeah,
And talk about replacing the entire.
so I don't believe it involves the park and rec roof because I think that was done. I think it's just this flat roof that basically is over here. And I'd have to look at it from a Google Earth or something to actually look at it. It's not terribly expensive. It isn't, which is good.
Yeah.
And so you're basically, to do the whole thing, you might be right now talking 250,000. When you talk about a town hall roof, that doesn't sound, you might think it's $1 million or something.
Right.
So the idea would be to obviously save up a few more dollars and get to the point when the roof needs to be done to do it. I know you haven't seen this before. I have a few items that need to go to a town meeting. I'm trying not to do them piecemeal. We'll talk about that next Tuesday. The next item, there's a couple other smaller items that need to go to a town meeting. So, I'm hoping there'd be action on this tonight, but, I know the board sometimes.
Yeah, no, it's fine. The only other question I have is, do you guys always consider putting, every time you put a new roof on, you consider putting solar panels on at that point, right?
We are gonna put solar panels on this roof.
Perfect.
We are. Well, I shouldn't say,
Is it the Park and Rec one, or is it this one?
was it Park and
It
Rec?
was Park and Rec. Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you, like, so how old is that roof? But depending on how that goes,
Yeah, maybe it's on the Park and Rec side.
Yeah.
But it needs to be a pretty new roof, right? Because otherwise.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and they had done a lot of work to that roof a few years ago, so I brought that up, believe me, I bring it up to the
Yeah.
solar contractor, I say. I brought up the fire department.
Right.
yeah,
And the amount of electricity it throws off. It was pathetic.
yeah,
I was
Trees.
shocked at that.
trees, no, it's not
No,
trees,
not
it's just
trees.
the exposure. The way that exposure is versus Park and Rec, because Park and Rec is so much smaller. How can Park and Rec, which you would think would be more susceptible to trees, but
So we are
The numbers
currently
look
in a program, they applied, our electricity broker is the one who developed the proposal, and they're going through the NREC, I forget the state program, where it goes into the program, companies bid on it, and there's discounts all around, and it's part of a state program that maybe there's subsidy in there, so that the town gets more value out of it. So it's the Park and Rec roof that they're gonna put the solar on? Okay.
yeah, yeah,
So-
and I think. For
But-
whatever reason, the way that roof is pitched versus the other roof, makes a huge difference.
Well, it's a flat roof
Well-
and there's no trees. So,
Park and Rec,
yeah, pretty much, no trees around it. Isn't it? It's a flat roof.
it's completely flat.
Well, it's a low slope, as they say.
Okay, but so is I thought the fire department was, but the way,
No,
anyway,
we were
it
talking about
was counterintuitive
Yeah.
to what you would think in terms of if it was a square area, it doesn't really work like that. Does that make any sense?
No, it does. No, I mean, it's, they're not supposed to put out a lot of power relatively to what you think that building's gonna use, right? I mean, this building uses a lot of power, so it's not gonna basically replace 80% of it, but it still produces.
Places part of it.
It does, right? So
Yeah.
for a normal house, I mean, the ones in our house replace our power 100%. So it's all relative.
Yeah. It just, to put solar on the fire department for the return. Just didn't seem like, to put it on the roof, I honestly. So,
Understood.
yeah, I can show you the proposals if you'd like. And we discussed it at a board of selectmen.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway, I need you something to read a motion.
I did.
Okay.
Well, just,
yeah,
the work that we're voting on
Yeah.
tonight, you have to do that work regardless, right? It's not as though you're gonna do the work and then rip it apart when you do the full roof.
No.
You have to do this regardless.
it's recommended that we do this. He said, putting on a new roof with the gables in this condition would probably defeat the purpose of a new roof.
Okay,
So he said, this is what you should do. I said, I have a pot of money. What should I do? He said, do this first.
okay,
He said, then you put the roof on, your roof will be sealed. No
okay,
problem doing the roof after.
okay,
No
All right.
problem.
okay, and this is, it's almost like a separate project. It's not as though you're gonna do this and then 5 years later, rip up a lot of it up. to do
None
the
of it.
roof.
Rip up none of it.
Okay,
No,
that's what I
this,
wanted
this
to-
is exactly the way he proposed to get it done.
Okay,
It's like the underside and the flashing and stuff
Well, it's actually replacing and sealing the bricks.
Oh, the brick.
Replacing and sealing a lot of the bricks. If you look at the face of this building here, it's green.
Oh, the gable walls, okay,
Yeah.
right, so it's.
And,
I'll make a motion, to make an appropriation amount of $106,900 with $50,000 from the roof repair fund, 3020, and $56,900 from the capital non-recurring fund, 3350, for the purpose of performing masonry repairs to the gable walls and north chimney on the flat roofs of Town Hall. Further to move this motion to town meeting.
Thank you. We need a second, please.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those in favor, thank you for that. Thank you. Next one, again, it's
Yeah, this is the grant I spoke to about 3-4 months ago. So I formed a committee. The Board of Selectmen formed a committee. And I've forwarded all the materials to the state that they need. They're gonna send a contract to the town. This is an entirely reimbursable program, no money from the town at the end of the day. Basically in 2 phases. One of them, education. So the first phase is literally with the committee and the consultant, which is the state has authorized this consultant, so we're not going out to bid for a consultant. They're on the DAS list. They've worked very closely with DEP in a lot of the towns. So the consultant and the committee will get together and they will go to the transfer station and they will talk to a lot of folks about this program. The program didn't work in Deep River. It did work in Guilford recently. It didn't work in West Hartford. It worked somewhere else. West Hartford shot it down. So it's 2 phases, and I want to be clear. We'll do the education portion. They'll print materials. They'll do some. I don't know what else is going to go into the focus or the education part of it, but it's about the first part of the grant is like 15,000, and that money will be spent, and then there'll be a determination as to whether to go to phase 2. You see $173,000, it may be 15,000 and done. I don't want to make any promises on this program because it can be a very third rail type of program, being quite honest. It depends how the residents receive it. The idea behind this is to increase food scrap recycling. Basically organics diversion, more recycling, and less MSW, municipal solid waste, which we now pay $141 a ton for, going up. So the idea is to reduce our bill. We're getting rid of garbage at the transfer station. If you have curbside pickup, this has nothing to do with you. And it is, I mean, it's called unit-based pricing. And you buy garbage bags at Stop and Shop that the town sells. And you try to use as few of those as possible. Recycle more, say, oh, I don't want to buy that food in that packaging because it's going to go to waste. So maybe it affects your buying decisions a little bit more. I see what goes on in my household. I'm not sure how it would work, but I suppose maybe it would. But it will definitely take some effort and some education. And I don't want to make it sound like it's going to be easy. But I was convinced to give it a try, and we'll give it a try. So I was at an event for Sustainable CT last Thursday night up at the Bushnell. And I saw the commissioner of DEP, Katie Dykes. We chatted for a little bit. She actually said to me, your name came up the other day. She goes, you're doing the sustainable program. I said, yeah, we are. She said, I hope it works. And, so it's a big grant. And about 100,000 of that is phase 2 after you get through the education portion. And that is to develop the whole garbage bag system. The sound of it, I don't want to poison the waters with the way I'm talking about it, because I think there's a lot more when people learn about the program. So, let's let let's let the folks take it and run with it, educate the population and see what the reaction is, and then we will make a decision with the committee and the consultant, with the Board of Selectmen, and decide what we're gonna do next.
Is this consultant the same one that did the work with the towns that it failed and succeeded in?
Yes,
So they already know the lessons.
they are what?
They know the lessons from those towns.
Very much.
Mm.
This has come a long way,
Mm.
this UBP, unit-based pricing program. And that is why they're doing it this way, because they've learned a lot of lessons, I think. And they're really trying to get this going in a lot of towns in Connecticut. I think about 15 towns got grants through this round, and there'll be more probably next year. And it's a company called Waste Zero. It's Kristen Brown. She's been talking to me on this program for 12 years, honestly. She's done presentations to the Board of Selectmen in the past. We dipped our toe in the water probably 8 years ago and we backed out. And this sounds like a much better way to go about doing it.
And do we know the percent of the residents that do private pickup versus transfer?
Good question. I'm gonna say it's 50-50. That's kind of our best guess.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's a price.
You would think it would be less people doing subscription curbside?
I would think so. I would think so.
You think more people get?
I mean, I just look at my neighborhood with curbside pickup, there's a lot of trash cans out.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all different days, so it's hard to
Yeah.
tell, but I would imagine it would be the opposite, but
Yeah.
that's great, I mean.
But I
it
bet many of
works,
them still
that's-
go to the dump too.
Well, yeah.
I mean, seriously, they still go to the transfer station.
Yeah,
So it's like a bit-
They're still gonna
Yeah.
go.
But not
We have
as good for
curbside
food
pickup,
waste.
and we're still gonna go to the transfer station for paint, you know, and all the, and textiles and all the things we recycle.
So Carl, is it the measurement of success then is gonna be the community adoption and how they respond? I mean, what's the,
The
it
measures,
didn't work in West Hartford, what needs to happen for it to quote work?
for us to go forward, or what
For us to go
what
forward.
does success look like?
Well,
I'll tell you what success looks like. Your tonnage gets cut in half, they estimate, which is incredibly significant.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Food waste.
I-
Food waste. There are a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I just feel like there's so much that's put into the transfer station that's not food waste, you know, just junk that, you know, people cleaning out stuff and tossing junk versus,
Well,
you know,
that, a lot,
broccoli stems.
there is junk, and then there's bulky waste, like I threw out a rug recently.
Yeah.
And so I hear what you're saying, but let's see what the program does. That's all I can say.
But like, does the bulky stuff, like, you know, at the transfer station, is it just the stuff that goes right in the big compactor thing?
That's it.
Okay,
That's
that's what,
MSW.
that's the MSW. All that other stuff is not part of the,
It is not.
okay, so then, all right, that's,
So for what you throw in your garbage bag that goes in the big
it goes in the,
compactor,
yeah,
right?
big.
How much of that is
thing.
food versus stuff that you can't recycle is the question.
Well, well, you shouldn't be throwing your recyclables in there.
No, I'm saying
Yeah.
stuff that you can't recycle is
Yeah.
going in your garbage bag with your food. So how much of that
Right,
is
like
food?
styrofoam,
Yeah.
takeout containers and bags,
And
the bread bags and
not that it's, and not that, exactly.
coffee cups and Starbucks
But
and Dunkin'
Bread
Donuts.
bags, right in town hall here, we have plastic.
Okay, I'll be
filled
bringing
recycle.
those over.
Not
Here?
that, not that it's heavy weight.
Yep.
But we have it.
That'll open up the space in the garage.
Makes you
for all
feel
this-
better. Yeah, I think
I have
that,
to live my
I think
golf
that's the
clubs.
tough part is where are people gonna keep it in their,
I bet
in
you
their,
it is.
in their kitchens?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like, I think that's gonna be the interesting part.
That's why
Not to
this
get diverted here, but.
cannot work in a city with apartment buildings, right?
Yeah,
And
it
it's
is.
much more difficult. Look, I don't know, okay?
Yeah, I'm excited, Carl. I'm trying to change my ways, so.
Sorry, two quick questions. So one is, who's on this committee?
Who's on the committee? So 2 members of the Conservation Commission, Nina Regan and Francine Gumkowski. And then Jim Joaquin, who is on the pension board. Jim's a retired lawyer. John Roberts, who's on, John Henry, who's on zoning, and Barbara Dennison is on that. And they, honestly, I needed a committee. I was at my RTC. I said, who uses the transfer station? I grabbed 3 people who I think are good people who are interested. I contacted Deb Shaw and I said, I'm thinking of grabbing 2 people from the Conservation Commission. Are you good with that? And we put that out to them. I think it'll be I think it's gonna be an excellent committee. Smart people who are not tilted one way or another.
I mean, and I think the other thing is, besides the money, right? Right now, 40% of our trash is getting shipped to Pennsylvania, right?
40% of not Old Saybrook's trash,
No,
but state
connected.
trash. Yeah, it's awful.
Which is ridiculous, right? I mean, we've got, and it's gonna keep going up. because-
Diesel, tires. It's just and then it's going to Ohio and Pennsylvania.
And it's gonna get worse because whatever they can get rid of here is getting dilapidated, so that percentage is gonna go even further, right? So. I don't really know. I mean, those trucks coming back have gotta be empty, right? The trucks,
You would think.
right? And so it's those empty trucks coming back with gas. Anyway, whatever.
It's insane.
Maybe they're bringing food back.
Of course, sure, exactly.
Maybe they're bringing corn back.
Exactly. Okay, I need someone to read this motion, please. Yeah.
I make a motion to approve an appropriation in the amount of $172,018 to fund a reimbursable deep grant for the purpose of reducing waste at the town's transfer station. The town will be reimbursed upon project completion. Further, to move this appropriation to town meeting for consideration.
Thank you, Jeff. I need a second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Sue. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay? Thank you very much.
And we'll keep you up to.
Please do, yeah. Oh my God, I know this is, this one is dear to my heart, very dear.
Wow, sure.
Yes, I would have been on the committee if you needed a volunteer, so.
I'm sure you would have. That would have been great. You would be great. And if anybody drops out, you can still be on the committee. There's no reason we can't
There's a
have a
limited-
6th person if you want. Truly.
Garbage, sorry.
One, you would think, I mean, of shoreline towns that already have a kind of a mindset, towards, clean up the sound and what.
Yeah.
Might have a greater inclination than some of the inland towns, so it just might happen.
We'll find out.
So.
Right thing.
Right, item 10, 2026 budget review and discussions. And so, before we get into that, I need to basically understand now the timing, right? So I did not appreciate this. So we should definitely figure that out.
Leanne, do you want to give an idea as to what the timing looks like as we get closer to the annual town, not the annual town budget meeting, but the public, the May 5th,
Referendum.
The budget hearing.
Referendum?
not the referendum, the meeting before the referendum, but.
So, if there's any decisions made at the Board of Finance to change the budget, I will need a couple days to make those changes. And then, I have to, work with Harbor News to post it. And there's, additions that go back and forth between us to make sure that everything's correct. So, that's a week at least to kind of get it, in final form to be posted in Harbor News. And then Harbor News only, is once a week. So there's deadlines that is associated with that. We have to get things in on a Thursday, I think it is, for publication the following Thursday. So now we're at 2 weeks. And then we have the town code that says that it has to be published for at least a couple weeks before the annual town budget meeting, which is the first Monday in May. I think that's May 2nd or 3rd or something like that. I don't have the calendar in front of me. And then we adjourn to referendum, which is then the following Tuesday. So I usually work backwards from that schedule to make sure it's published with enough time before the annual budget meeting and to give myself time to prepare the publication as well as take into consideration the deadlines that the newspapers impose. So that to be safe, I guess is the right word. By the end of March, the first meeting in April, you know, we work really hard to get the turnaround if it's done by then, by the Board of Finance.
So we have one more meetings between now and the end of March, scheduled meetings, and our next one is scheduled for.
We don't have one more meeting between now and the end of March. I'm sorry. I don't think we do.
No, we don't. We don't.
Oh, we don't. Oh, okay. I thought you said we
don't.
do. Sorry.
So you were saying you want to have something by the end of March, beginning of April, and
First week in April, first meeting in April.
so if we do this on April 7th, would that work for you?
Yeah.
If all the motions are made and everybody's fine with it, that's fine with me.
Okay, thank you. So you guys heard that. So we can. Well, obviously, we don't have a lot of time to discuss this, and we can certainly call another meeting between now and April 7th, special meeting to discuss the budget if we don't feel like we have all the discussions tonight. This is the first time, well, actually, there's 6 of us, unfortunately, Mark and I were here, have heard about, having a chance to discuss this meeting since it was submitted to us and March 3rd, and the town hearing, no, March 1st, actually, the town hearing was March 3rd, so it's actually very short, and I don't think we've had any discussion since then, so right now, we can just open up for just general discussion in terms of how you guys want to do this, what items you want to discuss. We can do the town, we can do the school, we can do both, just get a sense of what people are thinking about, what questions they have.
I'll pick it up. So just, I did make some comments. Now, I was unfortunately under the weather and I was not at the public budget hearing 2 weeks ago. So I'm not sure. I know there's a new board budget. I don't think I have the new board. Was there a handout for the new board budget?
Let me, yeah, here, that's all.
With the lower number.
With a lower number, okay. Did they do a comparison between what we originally heard and?
Not at that meeting.
Okay.
I don't remember that. It's part of this isn't.
So on just from my perspective on the board budget, I would like to know where the changes were, because I'm not aware of it, other than I heard there were a few positions where retirements were going to be filled or departures were going to be filled. So whether it's at another meeting or whether it's April 7th, it would be helpful from my standpoint just to speak with the school system one more time, just because I'm not sure what it is. So there's that. So I'm just going to put that to the side. I don't feel ready yet to vote on the board budget, but I had a few questions and comments, some of which were answered earlier. But I guess the first question is, and this is for Carl and Leanne, the question is, we went obviously through a lot of budget line items over the course of late January and early February. Are there any line items that that have changed since then that you would want to have reflected in the final budget?
So-
I don't have it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Leanne.
No, I was gonna say that, you know, we did get all the information in, and between, February 10th or 12th, whenever the Board of Selectmen met and March 1st, and even now, there's no new information that would, warrant a change of any budget items.
Okay, so nothing on healthcare costs or anything like that. That's all where you were 2 months ago, essentially.
Yeah, we did get further indications in on the healthcare costs, and it is within the targets of our budget. So that worked out fine. We haven't signed off on the final paperwork yet, but it's going to be in the ballpark.
Okay. Okay, that was one. You answered. I had a fuel expense question, but you've answered that, so I'm good with that. I have a question on the timing of the at least as of the unfilled public works positions. At least they were both unfilled as of the time we had the meeting.
One has been filled
Okay.
and the other one has not.
Okay. So the question I had wasn't whether we fill it, but when do we budget as if it's going to be filled July 1st?
We do.
Okay, and that is because you're fairly confident you will?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're, again, use the word hope. Bill wants a full crew. He feels like he's more productive, less overtime when he has a full crew. So we budget for it and we anticipate we will be able to fill it. We're only one guy down. Just hired a new guy. He's working out really well. He's just been there for about 2.5 weeks, but everything seems good. So we budget for it. Not only do we budget for it, but we budget for a 2-person family health plan.
Right, okay.
So there's that cost. So it ends up being even an entry level position like that probably ends up being an $80,000 to $90,000 cost in the budget. But we do budget for it. That's the answer to your question.
Yeah.
We do budget for it.
And is there an active recruitment process
Yes.
going on?
Oh, yeah.
Now, so that it's not unrealistic that somebody might be on July 1st?
We're hopeful. Yes, we'll put out, like, what we've done is when we've had those job applications out, we'll pull it back if we get somebody. Now we'll advertise again for this last position. So I don't see, we've just gone through an unusual stretch where we haven't had a full house, and Bill anticipates he will have a full crew next year, and we'd love to have a full crew. Right? You know, during the snow plowing, we were hiring people that don't work for the town in our trucks to plow for the town.
Additional police vehicles. I know we've approved 3.
Yep.
There were several more that were in, I believe, the capital budget. What are we thinking of doing, and what should be in the budget? Because he was looking for another 6 on top of that.
So what's in the budget is not gonna change. I think we're putting in 100,000. I think we upped it 10,000 to 100,000 for the police vehicle line item. We have not made a decision on the other 6 yet. We are meeting, I think we mentioned to this board, Enterprise, we are meeting with that gentleman once again. The 3 of us met. Leanne's had a couple more meetings with this gentleman than I have. He's a talker. But to George's point, in terms of maybe bringing 3 on next year and then 3 on in the year after, or something like that. I haven't spoken necessarily to the chief about that, but we do intend to buy 6. We would finance that. And whether it's 3 next year and 3 the following year, or whether it's 6, but we'll come back to the board with that. But we are going to meet with Enterprise one more time to see if he can give us a program, and then we can go back to the chief, and the chief is happy with it. He initially said, how do you guys feel about Dodge Durangos? And how do you feel about, and the chief is like, our equipment isn't going to fit in that. Not only that, they've heard real bad stories from the state police. I think the state police tried Dodge Durangos, and they've basically cast them to the curb. It's like, we don't want these. So they're kind of stuck on the Tahoe. But we'll get back to you with more information on that. Nothing has been done on it.
Okay, but it's not as though we're budgeting to buy 6.
We're not budgeting to buy 6. We would finance 6 within the town budget. That is being.
May I make a clarification? I'm sorry to interrupt. I can't see if I'm interrupting or not, but
Go ahead.
so it's not going to affect the general fund budget that everyone's going to vote on anyway. What would happen is that there was a motion that was proposed a couple weeks ago or months ago when the chief made his presentation that was never acted upon, and that was to enter into a financing agreement. And that would become an off-budget item, so it does not affect the general fund budget, but it will obviously go through all the Board of Finance channels and be approved, etc. So I just wanted to make that clarification in case you were worried it was going to affect the general fund budget.
So in the general fund, we will be appropriating 100,000 a year, and that immediately goes off budget.
Okay. All right, and the last item, and I'm gonna circle back to a comment we were talking about earlier about interest income or investment income. When I take a look at where we are this year, through February, it looks like we're somewhere in the million to 1.1 million in terms of interest/investment income. By mid-year, Leanne was talking about 100,000 a month, so we'll probably be at 1.5 million. I think this budget has half that for fiscal 26-27, 750. I understand that interest rates likely will fall. There was on CNBC today, there was a poll of major banks, and they're looking at, and who knows, when the new Fed chair comes in, and who knows what that impact is. So I'm aware that certainly the trend line is going to be downward in interest rates, but I do think, with all due respect, that you're being too conservative in only having 750,000 of interest income recommended for the new budget, and I think it would be still very conservative if we raise that number up something closer to $1 million. So based on what I see, based on, again, what the major banks are looking at, what they're pricing into their products, which is one to two more 25 basis point interest rate cuts, I think you're being too conservative, with all due respect.
Okay. I guess I would say, and I'm, as part of the conversation, that when you have to chase it the other way, it'll be a lot more painful. Because, right now, as we project it, we're looking at about a 0.32 something mill rate increase. Okay. Very reasonable, kind of in the ballpark of, in fact, maybe even a little lower than, where the town has historically been. Not a large bump. If you're chasing a mill rate increase lower, then I understand where you're coming from. I worry that if you have to go from 1 million to 750, that will, now on the revenue side, you're adding 1/10 of a mil just because you have to make up that lost revenue. In addition to that, there's nothing wrong with having a surplus. We've done a lot with surpluses over the years, and unless you really need to offset the mill rate, having a surplus, having interest income that exceeds your target, budgeting 99% of taxes when you're going to collect 100.2 of that 99%. It's good to have surpluses. We've done a lot with surplus. We put $1 million, $1.5 million towards Public Works garage last year. So it's not like we are, I think we're taking that money and putting it to good use. We raised this last year from 600 to 750 in this year's budget. With all due respect, because you said that.
Twice.
Right back at you. I would respectfully just disagree, just because I worry about drawing down some of our funds that we're making money on, and if interest rates were to take a dive by a full point or something, now we're chasing it, and that would be my concern. So, but I hear what you're saying. Leanne, what do you think the interest income will be by end of fiscal year 26?
I think it'll be 1.4 million, 1.5 million. And actually, we've seen a little bit of a peak, because last year it was 1.9 million. So we have seen the effect of interest rates coming down in this fiscal year, as well as balances coming down. But of course, we're way over budget. There's no disputing that. We're going to have 1.5 million versus our $750,000 budget. So to your point, trying to keep it at a level so that we're not going like a yo-yo up, down every year with our interest income. And I will do a full analysis on that, usually because it's one of those topics that the Board of Finance is very interested in. When we have our mill rate meeting, I typically give some trends and some, backup as to how we come up with that number.
So Leanne, so how much of that money, the interest money was from ARPA money, that, is now gone, essentially, and so.
Probably not a lot this year.
Yeah. Well, no, we've spent a lot of we have been drawing down the ARPA money every single year. And, we've had a lot of grants. And if you think about all that money that we've brought in, ARPA was $3 million. We're down to 92,000. So now we're not earning interest on that. When we go to market, we are going to be borrowing money, but also we have, $1.5 million of the DPW garage money set aside that will be used. So that will come down out of our cash balances. And typically what we do with the surplus is we put it towards capital projects. So one way or the other, it becomes to some extent budget neutral because we would either borrow for it or we would use our cash reserves. So it's therefore mill rate neutral if you think about it that way. We don't have to raise the mill rate to do a capital project because we used our surplus to offset that. So, you have to look at it holistically. And the way that we utilize by policy, our surplus does put it towards things that our long-term programs by capital.
It's also possible that with the DPW garage or whatever other project that ends up in the bond package, we may want to draw down some of the capital non-recurring fund to hit a target number. You may want to use $500,000 from that. We have 2.1 million in that account. I mean, it's good to have that money. We may want to use $500,000 of that money and draw that account down a little bit, or $1 million even if this board saw fit. So the money's there. Maybe we don't do that and we continue to earn interest off it. But that is something I have thought about, that you could in theory offset. Although a building, you may not want to do that. You may want to bond the entirety of the building, right? Because it's a 30-year life cycle. So that's in theory why you bond. But if we are at a target on the issuance that we think is higher than we want to be, maybe we use $1 million in cash to offset that. Anyway, good discussion. I hear your point.
Let me just follow up on that real quickly. So when Leanne was talking about presenting the debt service plan over many years, and you guys were thinking about adding additional money to it, so basically stabilizing. Right now, well, this year we put in 100,000 in, right? But that's just is that a one-off? Are you guys plan to keep doing that, and are you going to try and raise that? And if yes, where is that money coming from?
So two things. We put 100,000 into our reserves, our debt reserve fund in case we need to offset something. But we also added to the debt service payment, assuming we're going to have one coming up, a higher one coming up next year. We added to the budget line item, the debt service budget line item, $100,000. In addition to that, and I think what I said a couple of weeks ago was, if we were to, so we went from, I think it was 2.5, and then in fiscal 27, the Board of Selectmen voted to put it to 2.6. And then what I said is, in next year's budget, if you go to 2.7, and then 2.8, and then 2.9, it increases your ability to repay your bonding, or your ability to bond when you go out to market, because you have a higher, right now we have 2.5. So if we have 2.8, we'd look at that differently, wouldn't we? So we added 100,000 to that line item this year, in addition to putting 100,000 in the reserves, both.
Okay. Any other questions for the town? Budget part? Because I always got to talk a little bit about the school, if that's okay, please.
And actually, I had a comment on the school, and actually, I was gonna say the public comments made earlier kind of resonated with me, both, Michael and Casey, very articulate and thoughtful comments. And I'd look at all the successes that we have as a town of Old Saybrook and why people want to move here. I think the number two in the state in terms of, kind of, the retirement prospect where retirees want to move, and that's just one subset of the population. But within the budget, everything I heard, I didn't hear a lot of kind of, intra-year measurement. I just know that we kind of reflect on, successes of or lack thereof of programs on an annual basis. And I believe, we're at a stage that we should be able to, measure success intra-year and make changes where needed. And I just wonder if we can get some feedback from, the appropriate, individuals at the Board of Education as to how that's going to happen. Because, just, I think it's a critical juncture that we need to improve. And just, reflecting next year, well, it worked or it didn't work is probably not good enough in my opinion.
Good, yeah, that's good. If I can, I'll take a few minutes and talk about the Board of Ed budget. Not that I'm going to be an expert in course thinking that yet. A few weeks back, we talked about having liaison total relationship. We never really got to that because that meeting ran too long, but I basically mentioned that we can basically do this organically, and I basically decided to become a liaison for the Board of Ed. So I basically attended all their meetings where different aspects of the Board of Ed budget was presented. So I'll try and go through that because you had a question in terms of what happened. So I'll try and go through that. And I basically what I gave out was their last proposal, which was basically turned in the very last minute, right? March 1st, essentially. And essentially what happened was we got this in an email, this thing. And when it was presented 2 days later, at the town meeting, it was this budget that was being presented. And so, let's see if I can basically summarize what happened. So when February 3rd, when the budget came in, they were asking for 7.9. Let's just go around. They were asking for 8% at that point. And they had already realized that 8% was going to be a very high number. And so they came up with this 2% solution. And so they're asking for 6% in new appropriation. The 2% solution was going to be surplus that they had already found for this year. They're identified for this year that they're going to put this 2%, which is about $600,000, away into a separate account that they can use next year. And so essentially next year, they're still going to spend essentially to the tune of 8%. 2% will come from surplus of this year and 6% of new money. And then a few weeks later, they got some more updates on their insurance. And so the health insurance went down from 23 to 18%. And so that dropped their ask a little bit more. And so it basically went from 8% to 7.5%. But they want to still continue with that 2% solution. And so essentially they're going to ask for 5.5% in new money and 2% from the surplus of this year. Then March 1st, they came in with another revised budget, which is what you see in front of you. And so in this particular case, they're now asking, they're basically going to spend, or they're asking for a 6.24% increase. Of that, 2% is still going to be from surplus from this year, and they're asking for 4.24% new money from the town. And so those are the numbers I have. That's what the first two paragraphs is all about in terms of what I just handed out. And so you get that. And so the next part, basically, I think your question, Jeff, is that how did they come up with this? The difference between their 5.5% and the 4.24% is about $400,000. And the next paragraph describes how they came up with this $400,000. And the first bullet item is 282,000, which is a reduction of 3 certified staff. And the way they explained this was they're actually not eliminating teachers that are present right now. These are teachers that plan to retire or a position that never got filled. I guess there was a math specialist who became an associate principal, and so that position will not be filled. And then there were 2 other positions where the teachers are going to retire and they're not going to replace them. The current 4th grade and 1st grade class are particularly small. There are like 52 kids or something. The other kids around either side of those are around 65. So the number of classes in a 4th or 5th grade, there's still 1 teacher per class sort of thing. And so if you have 65 kids, and you divide by 4, you have 70 kids in your class. You divide 52 by 4 teachers, you now have 13. So I think they're going to basically reduce those grades to 3 classes instead of 4. You still get about 17 kids. And so they're talking about a reduction of 3 certified staffing. That's the first bullet item. But again, there's no real layoffs in terms of people. The next item is, I guess they were thinking about hiring a groundskeeper, which they're not going to do. The last one, it's a little bit of a head scratcher for me, because they essentially eliminated the summer enrichment program at Goodwin because of the asbestos abatement. At that point, the summer enrichment program was budgeted for $20,000. They only took $150,000 the first time around. They're taking the rest of it this time. So anyway, that's what that is. They talked about the next page then. They talked about this 2% solution. And they talked about how they had identified this $600,000, and they described the Public Act 2593, which allowed them to put away 2% for this year that they can spend, actually without going through us at all. It's their money because it's already their money, but they can only use it for educational purposes. During the February 3rd presentation, both Paul and I had a lot of concerns about the 2%, how the 2% is going to be spent, because we both said if it gets spent on operational, it will create a budget gap in future years. From my read, there's still concern. This is the second section on the second page, focus strategy investments. They talk about in 3 bullet items. They talk about what they plan to spend. The second bullet item, the first one is about the literacy program. The second one talks about essentially increasing literacy support as part of the new literacy curriculum. To me, that feels like a continuing process. I can't understand how that can be a one-off and be done. So I'm a little concerned about that. And then I guess the final piece here that I want to bring up about their budget is they're proposing an ad hoc town school building committee. They appreciate that the schools are getting old and it needs a lot of money. And so they want to create this, and they've asked, it's actually this letter to the Board of Finance. I don't think it's within our purview to create this board, so I think it's really up to you guys to create this committee. So
Created that committee,
yeah, I think that's what they were. I mean, I don't know. You have Superintendent Drezek has approached you on this, but it's basically on the 3rd page, and so I'll make a note that's here, but I'm not so sure that we can do much about it. But I do want them to basically take a look at the last page that I handed out. I think that's the question I had at the February 3rd meeting. And so this is just highlight their named major projects, capital projects, right? And so that's a very long list. And those are very expensive things. I mean, right now, that day when they showed up, Pam was talking about just then there was a boiler repair that they needed, it was $150,000 and so on. These are boiler replacements they're talking about here. That is in the high hundreds of thousands, not $1 million. So the trophy replacement, I know it's $1 million when we start doing. Air conditioning at the high school is probably $2 million a few years ago. The middle school is $2 million a few years ago. There's probably $10 million.
There is no AC at the middle school.
There is AC at the middle school?
No, there's not.
There is.
The only school that's done is
Talking about
Goodwin.
the estimate.
The estimate, yeah. No, exactly, but they all need to be done. There's probably about $10 million on that page. And so I think something you brought up last time, Eric, is that, when we talked about raising 8 million, it does not include this at all. So, it's something that you think about it. So anyway, those are my thoughts about the Board of Ed. I don't think we can get the Board of Ed in here between now and April 7th. I think that would be a reach. I mean, we could, but I think that'd be a reach. We, at the end of the board, February 3rd meeting, you guys, he said, you guys had additional questions, send them along. I asked you guys all for questions. You guys all were really great. You guys sent me a lot of questions. I sent them all to the superintendent. Not much back yet at this point, so I can't say. Those questions we asked about how successfully measured and so on, I mean, part of those questions, we didn't get much back. Anyway, sure, of course, yeah.
So you can certainly reach out to the superintendent and Pam and say, are you free March 24, March 31st? I mean, if the board is so inclined to do that, and if there's a date they can make it, I assume they'll be here to answer further questions. So when you say you don't think you'll be able to get them in here, I mean, you can ask, unless you want to, you can also just do it on April 7th, I mean, or whatever that date is, that Tuesday.
And so, so a couple of the points. So, I sent out an email today, and attached to that email was the Connecticut handbook for Board of Finance in terms of what we can do, what's within our remit. What's within our remit for the Board of Ed is actually very limited. We can just look at the numbers. Right? We cannot really, once funds are appropriated and given to the school, within the purview of this group discretion to spend it however they wish. I mean, they are the town and state. We don't really have much say in terms of how they run the schools. And so, I mean, honestly, this updated budget, March 1st budget in front of us, with the proposal of a 2% reserve this year and asking 4.24% in new money is their ask. And if we're okay with these numbers, I mean, essentially that's what we're voting for, right? I mean, everything else is almost asked that we can, but it's almost beyond our purview. We really can't do almost anything else beyond.
Well, this is what happened last year, right? Last year during the budget season, the same thing happened, right? There was discussion of additional positions. We can't vote to remove those positions, but we reduced the budget last year by 190 or 200,000 or something, or 300. Okay, I was short. So, but I don't like the timing of how all of this has worked out. I feel like we have gotten, they came in here on the 1st. We literally got this letter the day before we saw this presentation. To me, that's not great, because in our regular meetings all year, Jerry has to send everything out to us by the Thursday before our meeting. So that's 5 days for a regular meeting to look at what we're going to do with food at the transfer station, not the Board of Education budget, right? So that bothers me. 2, we don't know right now what their forecast is for a surplus. No one has said that number. They're saying that they want to take 2%, $16,000 from surplus, but what's the forecasted surplus for this year? Since fiscal year 2020, it's been $3.7 million. So what, I mean, I'm just curious what their forecasted surplus is, and that, you know, they do start the budget process very early. So obviously very early, they realize that there's gonna be a surplus all of a sudden. So what is that forecasted at right now? Like, what's the surplus gonna be? Is it gonna be more? And what is that number? I mean, Leanne knows what the town side is gonna be, and I know there's some variables and some differences, but I'm very curious as to what their forecasted surplus is for this fiscal year. And I won't vote on anything until we know that.
Do we have the right to ask that?
Yes, they can project. That's one of the questions we asked. Like we asked for their, we asked for at the end of the year, last year, they had almost $1 million surplus.
It was 550, I think. Fiscal year 25 was 550.
We put in almost 600,000 for the rest of the AC. And we put in $200,000 for capital sinking fund, something like that, maybe 650.
I have it.
Something around those numbers. But at that time, they provided a spreadsheet where they showed expenses on every line item, which were under budget, which were over budget. And construction and maintenance were both over by 400,000. So whatever they budget for, they went over by 400,000. So I suspect what that means is they probably used the surplus and did some work on that to basically move some future projects forward. I mean, it's a standard practice for them to do that. Well, fiscal year 26, like you said, Eric, we started this year giving them 3,000 less than what they asked for, but we still gave them, I forget what it was, 1.3 million last year. I think they were asking for 1.7 or something like that, something not done. But we still gave them an increase, but we gave them less than what they asked for. 6 months later, they found 600,000. So essentially, they're already 900,000 beyond what they have started at already. So will they have a surplus at the end of the year? I don't know. Right?
It would be nice. I mean, I think it would be nice to know that.
Yeah. But I don't want to be weird question, but is that going to change your vote on the 4.2%, 4.24%?
Well, you're spending what we need to make sure they have that money. We know
Oh,
what they have.
they had the 6%? Oh, they actually do. The 2%, I mean? They've already identified.
Right, but, okay, so what's it gonna be over that, though, is my question. Do we know that?
In some ways, it's their privilege to spend how they wish. And they could.
But they still have to report it's a procedural thing too. Every single year, they have to, they send a letter, right, Leanne, to you and Carl and say, we have X amount. In 2020, it was 1.2 million. Fiscal year 21, 300. Fiscal year 22, 245. 340 the following year, 1.1 in fiscal year 24 and 550 in fiscal year 25. So what is that number going to be this year? What's that letter going to say when they send it to the town? What is their surplus?
And when's the timing of that letter? When does that come? After we vote, probably. It's a problem.
In July, same time we figure out our surplus.
I think, I mean, like everybody, I mean, like what you're doing, Leanne, everybody can, if things stay the same, all things being equal,
It's called a forecast.
this is what we project.
Yeah.
And that's an easy question.
Yes. I will put that question and have them reply back as soon.
Right. That's probably what they put in.
No, I appreciate your comment, Eric, in terms of how awkward and timing this was. My sense is that this won't even happen next year again. They will probably shoot for the March 1st and not do that. I think. Right, and they don't have to. They don't have to come before us before then. I mean, one of the things I had proposed was maybe start meeting with them. Well, I haven't proposed yet. I'm just thinking about this. The idea is whether we can schedule a meeting in the fall, right? Because the way the superintendent describes this, they start building a budget the minute the school starts. So maybe we can start meeting in the fall, okay. We started, while the fiscal year 27-28 budget has been created, it's up top, right? What are the points that people are concerned about? And have that conversation way before February or March, right? We'll see how that goes.
Are we going to have another meeting before April 7th, or are we just gonna have April 7th? And I guess that's a decision we have to think about tonight. We have to make that decision tonight, right, as a group? If we're gonna add a meeting in between now and the 7th?
What I can do, well, I'm proposing, I don't know, I'm writing ground for me. I'll write a letter. I'll send an email to, well, actually, there's a board of ed member right here, I mean, but I'll certainly, I'll email superintendent to ask a question, and do we have an anticipation of the surplus for fiscal year 26, additional to the 2% at this point? See, and basically apply for us, and then whatever number I get, I'll forward. I gotta be very careful that I don't have online meetings, right? So, because we can't have that. So I'll forward to all you guys, and you can let me know whether that number is acceptable to you or not, to say that we need to have another meeting to discuss before April 7th, or we can actually discuss on April 7th. And I'm not exactly sure what you're proposing here.
I'm asking.
Oh, I see.
You talked about maybe having a special meeting. It was just brought up. I'm asking if we are or we're not.
I mean, the question would be whether people are comfortable enough. I mean, I've already raised my questions, but then I also ended with saying, even though I'm asking these questions, and I appreciate your question, Steve, I also know where my line is. And my line is these numbers.
And my comment, again, I'm new, so respectfully submitted, but really, I know that once the money is appropriated and a budget approves, spend it how it is, but we're all acting in good faith, and we need to be educated on how this is going to impact our students, how it's going to impact the town, and there's still a lot of unanswered questions. So I would think responding and saying we'd like to get some feedback to earlier questions, and if that doesn't happen, I think another meeting might be appropriate, at the very least amongst us. That's just my thought.
Just FYI, there is a Board of Ed meeting on the 24th. There's not a meeting on the 31st. It's one of those, extra Tuesdays
Yes.
in March.
Doesn't always have to be a Tuesday. I mean, either, right?
Correct. It's just convenient. There is an open Tuesday without any meetings because it's that 31st. It's the 5th. It's the 5th Tuesday.
Just saying, we have Tuesdays on our mind. But you'd have to pull your own board to see who's available.
Right.
We could, send whatever questions over in advance and then just invite the board leadership to including the superintendent to the meeting on the 7th, so that when we decide the budget, if there's some questions that we want to ask, they're in the room.
Okay. So then if I can just try and capture this, so I'll ask your question in terms of projected surplus for fiscal year 26 beyond the 2% right now, and ask whether we can provide, midterm, mid-year.
Well, I mean, everything I do, is measurable. I know this is different, but I mean, given the fact that we as, board members, taxpayers, we want to improve the school systems, right? That's our intent. I think that there can be measurable, intra-year, feedback, and that can come in various forms, right? It can come into best practices from teachers, it can come from individual or group successes. I mean, that kind of feedback is what I would want in my business, to redirect when needed and not wait on an annual basis. I mean, I always want to just redirect where things, and I think that's what I don't know. but I'm guessing other towns that have surpassed some of our measurement are probably doing some of that. So that's my comment.
I appreciate it. And so if it's okay, I will try and craft something that try and capture that.
And they must be thinking about, how this is gonna be,
Yeah, no,
I don't recall anything being, shared with us at the town hall meeting, at the time.
I think, Katie mentioned earlier on, the reasons for it, whether it's an SBAC or something else, or whether it's actual literacy rate and so on. I think it's very telling in terms of just the comparison rate, right? In terms of, okay, maybe we don't compare ourselves with Greenwich, right? But Mission Essex, Northern Line, East Line, right? I mean,
Even where were we a couple
Max,
years ago? Is that a big downside?
we are, we're right there, right? So, yeah.
In the end, we have the ability to approve or not approve the budget, right? So, I would think that, that would prompt some kind of feedback that, we need clarification on some of the questions, and it goes beyond myself and Eric, you had other questions that, that we should get some kind of feedback on.
So I have a question for you or Leanne. So we don't really approve or not approve a budget. We just approve a number that goes to referendum, right?
Correct. I stand correct.
Yeah, no, I understand. So yes, no, so our purview is just to come up with a number. Right, and so, okay.
Correct.
And we are limited by, and there are guardrails for that number. That number cannot be lower than 5% of this year. I mean, it's basically a state law regulation, whatever it is.
Minimum budget requirement.
Right, to prevent basically a town from gutting a school budget. And so the next year's budget cannot be 5%, has to be at least 95% of this, something like that.
Yeah.
Like, I think those are the requirements. Okay. If that sounds reasonable, I will craft some questions, I'll send it out, and then if it replies back, and if you guys want, we can have either a meeting before the 7th or have them come in on the 7th. But either way, the idea is we should plan to make motions on 2 numbers that would go to referendum on the 7th. Leanne, if that's agreeable to you? Can I just double check on some numbers, Ben? So I presume that the town side will not change, right? And so right now, I think these are the numbers that I also have from the book as well. But essentially, well, the way you want to do this, do you want to do this in terms of a total number, or do you want to break up
Right?
No, I'm sorry. No, I'm just talking about town side right now.
Oh.
Well, the town side, do you want to break up general government and debt separately, or do you want to break up, or do you want to do them together?
We break it up. The debt, so we do the town general government budget, debt budget, and then total amount. I mean, obviously the 2 numbers add up to each other, but we always separate debt and general government.
But the motion will be for one number for the town.
Yeah, on the referendum question, it'll be one number for the town, one number for the Board of Ed.
Okay.
There's not 3 questions on the referendum. Leanne?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can't tell who you're looking at. Correct. Yeah, so.
So there's only 2 questions on the
Okay,
referendum.
so then,
yeah.
so in that case, then, so the number that we will be voting on, or we make a motion on for the town side is 22,623,966, which represent a 2.86% increase over last year, or some number amount between this and last year, not even that. Looks like $700,000, something around those lines.
Correct.
Okay,
We'll prepare a motion.
very nice, thank you. And then for the town side, we'll figure out what it is.
Yeah, it's
at that point.
You mean for the
Board
board?
of Ed, I'm sorry, did I say that? I'm sorry, I meant the Board of Ed.
Well, the Board of Ed number though, so theoretically, the Board of Ed number is not going to include the 2% because they already have those funds, right? So their number is only going to be the 32 million. That's a 4.24% increase, right?
Correct. But the way but you can see how they wrote this, right? That their total operational plan requires 32.7 million. So their spending rate will be at that rate, but they're asking 32.1 million.
Right.
They need money.
But we will, so let's hypothetically, we vote on the town budget, we vote on the Board of Ed budget, right? Let's say they both pass, goes to referendum, passes. Theoretically, in July, the town is still going to get a notification from the Board of Ed to say, we have $712,000 in surplus from fiscal year 26, right?
Yes.
We are never voting on what they're doing with that surplus. They still actually have to send the letter every year to the town, right?
They do.
Regardless, because that's not part of this.
It is not. That's my understanding.
Right, it's not.
It is
Yes.
basically siphoned off now, put aside, and it will be used later on.
Correct.
But
The 2%,
the 2%.
yeah, but the surplus has to go back to the town.
It
If it's
does.
$10 or
No, that's correct.
$1 million,
Yep.
they can only, legally, the Board of Education can only keep that 2% in that reserve.
And I'm asking from a procedural question because what's happened historically, right, is let's say the Board of Ed says we have $900,000 in surplus funds. They have historically sent a letter to Carl and Leanne and said, this is our surplus. We would like to use X amount for this and X amount for that, right? And then don't we vote on that?
So
After with that surplus money?
Yes.
the surplus is the town surplus. It's technically not broken down between Board of Ed or general government, but we break it down just to show everybody where the pieces came from. And then they request, just like the Board of Selectmen makes recommendations to the Board of Finance of how to use the surplus, the Board of Ed also adds a recommendation of what they would like to do. They could ask for more than they have as a surplus. They could ask for none. And then the Board of Finance votes on it. So think of it as the townwide surplus that you vote on at the end of the year. But I think this year, the 2% will be taken out before we even see it. So we'd probably see if there's a $700,000 surplus and they take 600,000 out, I think we're going to see $100,000 surplus.
I assume that would be explained in any letter that came over them.
Yes,
Or not.
I assume that too.
And if you remember, Eric, what usually happens, it's late in the year, fiscal year. I think you have a whole bunch of motions for what to do with the different surpluses. Then we usually, if the Board of Ed shows up, we usually put that way up on top,
Yeah.
so they approve it, so they can leave, because it's like 18 others right behind that, so.
Well, not last year, George, because you asked for less. So we did less.
Okay, fine, thank you very much.
That was a good idea.
All right, thank you. No, that was a good one, please.
The 2%, the 616,948. We don't act on that. That's just automatic. That's correct, right?
We don't, yes, no, it's, right, and no, it's a special fund that they create and they use.
But they have to report to the state on it.
It does report to the state, yeah. Yeah, I-
But do they have to report? I guess what I'm still not understanding is regardless of what we call this, it's coming out of their current budget. So they're saying that the $600,000 is essentially, we're calling it surplus funds, right? It's surplus funds that they want to use. Are they taking that, once the budget's approved, are they taking that money, putting it into some other account that they have right now, right? So their reporting is not, if they do have an $800,000 surplus, the reporting that we actually get is only going to be the $175,000. Is that correct? It's not going to show the $600,000,
So,
right?
first of all, this is new. for everybody, new for the Board of Ed, new for the town. I think maybe as a Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, we may want to direct them. Hey, whatever surplus you have, tell us what the total number is, including the 2%. We know we can't touch it, we know you're using it, but we'd like to know what the all-in number was, even though you've reserved 2%. Does that
Yes.
answer it all? Like maybe
Yes.
give us direction?
But we could touch it if it's.
But we could
surplus.
what?
We could if it's surplus money. It has to be reported. It's town surplus money, right?
No, because they essentially, they had to go through a vote, and so they made a motion, they created this fund. So this year's money is is approved funds that they can use however they want. And so they have approved to use this $600,000 for this account.
So the Board of Ed fiscal committee approved that. Is that how that works?
The whole board did.
Yeah, the whole board.
Almost consider it as an expenditure.
The state law.
Just
Yeah.
this law.
It's a state law that says they can do this. It's,
And it's exactly 2%.
Yeah.
You know, that's why it's $617,000.
so Eric, you're saying it's still surplus, it's still town money, but state law says, no, it doesn't, it isn't town money, it's their money.
Right, because they put it into this reserve
That's exactly,
account.
state law says that, so, now we can say to them, hey, we understand that. Over and above that, what's the all-in number and what's left over and how do you want that appropriated back to you also, you know, I mean. So I think it's a fair question to ask, it's not a big ask. We're not asking for the 2% back, you know, to come to the Board of Finance and then be reappropriated back to them. So.
Right, and I mean, right now they'll project what it is, and we can make it very clear when you're projecting. Does this include the 6%, the 600,000 or not, right? Just so that there's no ambiguity in terms of what the town. It's all very new.
Sorry, I'm good.
No, but, you know, it's excellent, right? No, it's excellent.
I've never had this before. Has that been here?
No, it's.
It's brand new.
Great,
So
so.
it's actually, no, there's a lot of things that's brand new here. So, anything else?
So so we propose or approve budgets for the town side and the school side. That's what goes to referendum. It's subsequent to that vote, to the passage by the populace, that we then subsequently meet to set the mill rate.
Correct.
And that mill rate is where a lot of inputs, you know, revenue inputs.
We'll have some of those inputs before we get to that point. Okay. We'll have all those for you. Okay. We won't,
I have a question. On the referendum, does it mention anything about the mill rate or is it just?
it does not.
Just the
mention
numbers,
numbers,
just the
just
numbers.
numbers.
Okay.
But April 7th to May 15th, if there's a meeting in between or something, we can explain to you what our estimated mill rate is based on expenditures and revenues.
And then the night of the referendum, we actually, right, have a Board of Finance meeting at 8 o'clock when the polls close to set the mill rate
Yeah.
that night.
Correct. Oh.
And, oh yeah,
In the
okay.
back of
On
the.
the, that's the 12th. The 12th?
May 12th.
May 12th. Okay.
and,
Where's that meeting?
At the high school.
Bar.
The gym at the high
the
school.
agenda item technically reads motion to set the mill rate or further discussions on the 26-27 budget. That's what the motion probably should say. It's what it's said in the past, just, you know,
The motion for,
to set the mill rate and or further discuss the budget in case referendum doesn't pass. Because you'll need to, so
you're talking about the
we're
May
talking about
12th
a
meeting. Thank
meeting
you.
after the referendum.
Okay, I see.
And
Which is not scheduled on our calendar, so that's a special meeting?
yeah,
I see, okay.
yeah.
Thank you. All right, anything else? I'll draft something out for tonight. I'll send it out. We'll see where it goes. I mean, right now, it looks like we're just go for April 7th, meeting, and we need to, we'll bring the Board of Ed in, and approve these, or do something to these two numbers to the end time by beginning of May. With that, okay with you, Carl?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, great.
So, all right. I'm sorry, move on.
That's right. I want to compliment you, under my comments. No, I do. On your response to the parent group, I thought it was well crafted. I think it's important for folks to understand that this is essentially 4.24 plus 2% that will be budgeted for fiscal 27 for the Board of Ed. And the conversation is not about money. It's about programming. And that conversation has to take place with the Board of Ed and with the superintendent. And from where I sit, I can say this now because the question hasn't been set for the referendum, but voting down budgets doesn't make the budget get better. They typically get worse and more jobs are lost. And I don't, if people were upset with where the mill rate was going to land because of this budget, that's one thing. But if people are upset with programming, I think voting down a budget which defeats both budgets is the wrong message to send, because then you are talking about job losses and other cuts. And it doesn't make the town better. I don't think it makes the schools better if that is the argument. So I thought basically your letter reflected where the conversation should be taking place. And I think encouraging the parent group, and by the way, encouraging superintendent and the board also to engage.
So, in case people don't understand what Carl's talking about, late last
Did I
night.
speak another language?
No, but it happened very
Letter.
fast. It happened very fast. It happened very fast. So late last night, I got an email from a group,
Oh,
and I sent response late this
Oh, I'm
morning.
sorry.
And so if people don't look at the emails,
People at work.
at work,
Yes,
whatever,
they
which
appreciate
exactly
that.
right, just going, what are you talking about? So essentially, I had forwarded the letter from the parents to all of you. I forget when it was.
It was just.
And then I forwarded my response a few hours later. And so that's what this whole discussion was. And essentially, Carl just summarized my response in the sense that we can't talk about educational policies, right, or principles. But thank you for your comment.
so couple quick things. Construction on Route 1 starts tomorrow again for the sidewalks going out that way. You'll see work over by Dibble. They're gonna start there. They have to crack some rock over there to start digging a little bit, and then the sidewalks. That project won't take long once they move on. That's probably the most difficult part they have to do right there, is get through some rock and ledge to put some sidewalk down. But after that, I bet that project will be done, we're in March, by May. I can't imagine we'll go on much longer than that. Main Street is gonna start up again. Also, I did get an estimate on the damage to the crosswalk, about $27,000 worth of damage. I'm trying to, our insurance company is involved, but I'm trying to settle the claim directly with, I think it's Farmers, just to get them to pay it, send a check, we'll have the contractor do it. If not, we'll subrogate, we'll get the full amount paid and let Kerma go after them. But that construction will start also soon. Celebrate Saybrook, we pulled the trigger on that, June 28th, Sunday, again this year. This year, we're changing it a little bit. It's America 250. We want to do some special stuff. we were booting around a bunch of ideas, fireworks, I don't even want to say fireworks, because people really want fireworks, I know, but, as it turns out, Westbrook is doing fireworks that weekend. And there was an article in the Harbor News a couple weeks ago that they're trying to raise $50,000 to do the fireworks. And I'm like, that's exactly the weekend we were gonna have our party and maybe do this, so we're gonna do something, I think, way cooler. We're gonna have a drone, like 250 drones in the sky. And we're gonna do a July 4th drone show, right above Town Hall.
Nice.
It's gonna be really neat. They're short, they're 13 minutes long. But we put a down payment on it.
Nancy Carl with the.
And no, they'll all be fresh.
No.
Yeah, so I think that'll be a real draw for people.
Saybrook.
I can send, I have a video of it. It's really 200, I mean, you can do 1,000 drones, but 200, 250 drones gets you a really good show. Our main sponsor is in again this year. I made contact with that person. So we're gonna do that. And as a result, the party is gonna start at 4 and end at 8:30. So that also maybe solves a little bit of the heat problem that we've had the last few years. Won't get into any more details. It just involves Public Works being out till 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, cleaning up. So what I'm gonna do, just so you guys know, they're gonna be working a super long weekend, going deep into the night. I'm probably gonna comp them at least 5 hours the next morning, or even the entire day, and just say you get a day off, because they're gonna be working till 2 a.m. And they work Saturday to set up. So party will be 4 to 8:30. Everybody will move into position. The drone show, you have to be 300 to 500 feet away from it anyway, just to experience it, so you can't be right under it. And chief of police is on board, so we're good with that. Too late to go into a couple other things, but I was gonna complain about the emergency certification that happened at the state level on a particular piece of legislation that passed called pension offset. And the essence of it is, it's a bill that CCM and the towns within CCM represents 168 out of 169 towns. We've defeated a piece of legislation called workers' compensation pension offset for 12 years, as long as I've been here, 14 years. Every session we've defeated it. They e-certified it this year, so they didn't have to go through a public hearing and got it passed. What does it mean? A public works or a policeman, let's say a policeman, and I'm not targeting any particular group, goes out and hurts his back late in his career, 25 years in, 23 years working, 20 years, gets a rating on his back of 20%. Let's say he can be out for a year, because you get a permanent partial disability in workers' compensation. So you can be out of work for a year. That worker can now retire in that year that he's on workers' compensation and collect pension benefits at the same time. Never meant to do that. It's something that increases the cost of your pension. It increases the incentive potentially for a worker to not want to return to work. It increases the length of your pension obligation, because if that worker, the pension payments have to start concurrently with the workers' comp. So actuaries are going to, does it have a huge impact on Old Saybrook? Probably not a huge impact, but where you have paid police, paid fire, paid ambulance, it's going to affect those cities, and cities oppose this bill. But there were many other things in that e-cert. The governor vetoed a couple things, but this is law now in the state of Connecticut. Aside from the financial aspect of it, it was a slap in the face to municipalities. It was a slap in the face, because they said, we've heard you for 14 years and we don't want to hear you this year, and we're going to pass this. And the governor signed it. So I was at a CCM meeting last week, and this is not just me talking. It's not partisan, but Joe DeLong, the executive director of CCM, was just like, we have tried, and it's true, I've been part of it. We have tried to work with the legislature to pass firefighter cancer funding so that it wouldn't go into workers' comp. We're putting 5-cent charge on cell phone bills to pay for firefighters. So if they get cancer, because it's a hazard to be a firefighter, cancer is a risk. And I've worked with the firefighters on behalf of CCM to get that legislation passed. And we've worked with them because members of the legislature wanted to put firefighter cancer into workers' comp. That would have skyrocketed workers' comp rates. We came to a compromise. No compromise here, just jammed it down our throats. Very disappointing. And I worry about anything else they might try to certify this session. There was an article by Paul Schwanier, used to be publisher of the day in New London. He's no longer publisher. He wrote an opinion piece yesterday morning. And I'll just say it. He wrote, there are kings in Connecticut too. And he said that. Those are my words. Because it completely bypassed the democratic process. So that's what I'm really upset about lately, was that e-certification bill. That's not an emergency. That is not an emergency. Anyway, I'm gonna get off. It's almost 9 o'clock. So, but I just wanted, that flew under the radar. And it affects every town in the state of Connecticut. And you wanna make housing more affordable, that's not the way to do it, to increase your pension costs. So, thank you.
No, that's good comments. I appreciate that. Public comment.
Thank you so much for listening and very informative. And I will go back to the board. I would say I wouldn't be here tonight coming from my 2 young children if I felt and if other parents felt like we were really heard by the superintendent or the board. No changes have been made and we've been vocal. I just want to, I'm like, this isn't fun. I work full time. Not that you guys aren't fun. You're fun, but
We hear.
Kids. I work full time. My husband works full time. We don't have outside family support. It's not, this is not what I want to be doing on a Tuesday night. I appreciate you all listening. I understand we have to go back to the board. I just feel there's a lot of hope that's like not there when you keep on saying something, but did they change anything in the budget? No, not a thing. And one would hope that in good faith, someone would change something. We speak and we say, oh, okay, let me think about that. Let's see if we can change something. When you don't do that, what's the point of speaking? But I do feel heard by you guys. I understand this is not, you can't do anything about it, really, essentially.
Very much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Mike still on? Did he want to say anything?
He is not.
Okay.
Scott is on twice, but Mike is not.
Comments from board members. Comments from chair. No, thank you. I didn't realize I was so late, but thank you very much for your comments and questions. I really appreciate this. And I appreciate you indulging me. I guess a couple reminders, right? End of this month, Carl, a big vote for you.
Yeah.
Big point.
Not for me.
The town. March 31st.
That's right. If
Yes.
we probably shouldn't have a special meeting for that.
You
That's the
could
same
vote
day.
right here in town hall. I just did it the other day. It was super easy. Went on the town clerk.
They won't be in here, right?
No, they'll be at the high school.
Okay. Cool.
And there was also a grant coming in around the same time, I thought.
We will be looking for a Port Authority grant next Tuesday.
Okay.
Next Tuesday or Wednesday. We applied for that grant that you heard about last week.
Right.
And we should hear on March 25th.
Wow, very close.
Yeah, it was a quick turnaround.
Great.
Very optimistic. I hope we get it.
That's great. Great, thank you. On that, I don't have any other comments. I need a motion to adjourn, please. Thank you, Chair. Second. Thank you, Megan. In favor, please, aye. Thank you. Good night. Appreciate it.
Thanks, George.
Thanks, George.